I'm often aware theory and practice are very different worlds. Yeah? We can be inspired and then we have to practice. It's in the practice we connect with the reality of the gems that come to us. So back to humanness. How's my time going? Okay. I look at a clock and it means nothing to me until it's 5 minutes to go, but anyway. I'll keep talking. Psychological resistances. I read a lot of Jungian psychology, which I love. Something about it really works for me. And Robert Johnson talks about a Jungian concept of the mother complex, a desire to stay in or return to the womb, a reluctance to fully open to life, the mother complex. And it's nothing to do with your mother or anyone else's mother. It's just what it's called. And in the end, it's the mother that calls you back in when it is time to die. But the problem is that a lot of people, they have this mother complex and they just want safety and security. And so we don't actually, he says, the mother complex is the regressive tendency in a man, the wish to retreat and go back to an early stage of development where he was safe. Nothing is as dangerous to a man as an unresolved mother complex. And I can easily talk about these things because we teach what we need to learn. You know, I've experienced this throughout my life, this call to surrender and let go of life and not incarnate, because it could be painful. I don't know what's coming. And about 3 years ago is when I finally went, actually, I'm going to stay here and be present and be honest and be true no matter what happens. And I guess there's a freedom in that, rather than this withdrawal from life. Yeah. So he says, when the time comes, the mother complex is the perfect thing, because it does. It takes you back and takes you to the next thing. So. And I have, throughout my life, I've had to find a will to live, as well as a will to surrender. Yeah, it's been a difficult one, and I'm sure I've earned it karmically, and we each have our own. Why live? And what are you going to do with it? That was psychological resistance. Pain, suffering, and growth. Maybe we can lighten it a bit. Khalil Gibran. I started reading Gibran again recently. He says, the self-same well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else could it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Something hit me profoundly a few years back when I started reading Yogananda. Yogananda writes in one of his lectures, God gives you loved ones that you might learn to expand self-love to include the love of others. And he allows death and other circumstances to take away dear ones, that you do not confine your love to only a few, but learn to give it to all. The more universal your love becomes, the more expanded consciousness will be filled with the joy of his omnipresent being. So death can rip you apart, and then it gives you the next gift, the next part of life. And I'm not saying it's easy, I'm just saying it's... Yogananda says, this world is a dream place, and we are all dreaming here. This life is not real. You are laughing and crying in the greatest delusion. And then from another lecture, so the thing is this, there is no perfection in this world. Why seek it here? You may find a little short-lived pleasure, but mostly you'll find suffering and injustice. So these ideas I like to just let work on me, you know. It's not for my ego to argue with, it's just, will these ideas help me to open up more to my higher nature. In another lecture again, Yogananda says, your soul comes to earth, or the soul comes to earth and becomes entangled in the mesh of delusion. Through the suffering that comes to us then, the Lord wants us to see that the world is not perfect. In this way, he helps us to break our attachment to it. God is trying to make us realise, through non-identification with it, how delusive our existence here is. Death.